Hello there. We're going to talk about lightsabers today, or rather, how people fight with them. Now with that cringy opening out of the way, I just want to introduce any new subscribers. Thank you, by the way, so much for one thing. But I want to introduce you guys to this series, Headcanon, in which I try to help offer up any sort of ideas or theories or concepts that will explain any sort of discrepancies, plot holes, issues, or whatever that Lucasfilm probably isn't going to answer, or at least has not answered yet. We've talked about how powerful Rey is. We've talked about how did Vader suddenly become a Force ghost. But today we're going to talk about lightsaber combat, and why is it so different between the prequels and the sequels / original trilogy? Slash lightsabers. Anyways, so I've come up with four separate reasonings as to why there's such a difference. The first reasoning is going to be the basic one, the simple one, the true one, and the boring one. The behind the scenes answer. Advanced choreography, like what we got in the prequels, didn't really make it to Western filmmaking or audiences for that matter until the prequels. Really, that was one of the big things that the prequels did. That was one of the many things that the prequels introduced to Western audiences, was the super advanced, super fast-paced fighting in films, right? And you didn't really have that in the late 70s, early 80s when the original trilogy was being made. And you're not going to get Sir Alec Guinness to do wire work. Sorry, you're just not going to do it. So that's the really simple basic answer, but we're not here to answer the basic reasons. We're here to contort our sense of disbelief into some unrecognizable thing that allows us to rationalize things in a galaxy far, far away that doesn't actually exist, right? Right. So we'll go ahead and move on to number 2. Number 2 is basic loss of knowledge, which makes perfect sense, right? All the Jedi died, and then Obi-Wan trained Luke for 3 hours, and then Yoda didn't do any sort of lightsaber training with him, so Luke didn't have any training, and then therefore he didn't have any training to pass on to Kylo or his other students. So it makes sense that, you know, I can't remember, there was like 7 lightsaber forms that were perfected over the 1,000-year golden age of the Jedi. Chicho, Makashi, Soryu, Ataru, Shen, Juyo was the 7th. What's the 6th one? Niman, something like that. Those are technically legends. If you want to know more about them, I will leave it up in the corner for you guys if you want to go ahead and check that out. There's a video from Star Wars Explained and I've got his name up. Jansari 1, excuse me. They did a collab a couple years back if you want to know more about the 7 lightsaber forms. But anyways, those lightsaber forms probably just disappeared, right? Those perfected techniques don't exist anymore, and Vader is destroyed, and we never see Sidious, is physically destroyed, I mean, and we never see Sidious do any sort of lightsaber combat in the original trilogy. So it would make sense that nobody knows how to fight the way that they did in the prequels, so now they're starting all over again with super basic, super heavy strikes, right? Now, answer number 3 is a little bit of a, I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but I do subscribe to its result, if that makes sense. We'll get there in a minute. So this reasoning is that it kind of follows this kind of Legends Sith reasoning as to how the Force works. It's kind of a nature of the Force thing, where the Force is a finite resource, kind of like a mana pool for the galaxy. For D&D aficionados, for somebody that doesn't know what mana is in, you know, fantasy stylings, think of it like oil or another type of resource, water. Here on planet Earth, the more people there are to use it, the less of it that there is for people to hoard. So the less people there are to use the Force, the more powerful those very few people will be. So it's gotten to the point, this is what I mean by, I do agree with the ending part of this. It's gotten to the point where Luke, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Vader, they've gotten to that point where they are so powerful and so strong in the Force that super heavy attacks is all they need. They don't need to whittle them down. They don't need to whittle their opponent down with little tiny strikes and trying to fatigue them or anything like that. They don't need to aim for the opponent's blade. They already know where the opponent's blade is going to be. They're already stepping out of the way, right? So all they need to worry about is these super heavy attacks. So that could be the reasoning behind that. Now, reasoning number 4 is my personal headcanon. I usually like to leave these off until last. Is that Yoda, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, once they gained the power to ascend, to use a Stargate term, into the living Force, they've become so powerful and so strong that they don't need those super crazy, ridiculous, long, drawn-out, flipping fights, right? And I think that that's supported especially through Maul and Obi-Wan's duel in Star Wars Rebels. Maul is defeated in 3 strikes. That's all it takes. Block, block, slash. Done. Goodbye, Maul. Maul was going to try and go all flippity, and old man Obi-Wan, who's been worn down by the desert, just goes, nope, nope, nope. Done. And I think that because they've gotten so powerful, they don't need to do that kind of fighting anymore. But I think that's all I've got to say right now about this particular inconsistency in the Star Wars universe, but I would love to know what you guys think. Please, I would love to have a conversation with you guys down in the comments. Be sure to put a like on this video so I know that I'm going in the right direction with this content. Hit subscribe if you want more of this content. And as always, may the Force be with you.